players just want to get pinged to a player strike, basically a lockout for next season. The rumblings around the industry.
This league will die if they can't start turning a profit.
WNBA is spiraling into complete chaos after its biggest stars just dropped the lockout bomb with an October deadline. Oh, they really thought they could keep printing merch, stacking views, and tossing crumbs to the actual players like it's charity.
I do think they ought to be some kind of a percentage bonus.
But surprise, Boyslins, the ones making the league watchable are done playing broke. The WNBA is officially in chaos, and it all started with a protest that nobody could ignore.
This did not go well during those all-star meetings, and that is a big reason why they wore the shirts that they did that said, "Pay us what you owe us." Now again,
during the All-Star Game warm-ups, over 40 players walked onto the court wearing black t-shirts boldly stamped with the words, "Pay us what you owe us." It wasn't a marketing gimmick or a pre-game stunt. This was a calculated warning to the league.
Like I said, this is the height of the WNBA, probably since the 1990s, and I so much worry about a lockout or a player strike happening.
With the current collective bargaining agreement set to expire at the end of October, the message was clear. The players are done waiting. They want action, and they're willing to burn it all down to get it.
That a lot of players, because they weren't going overseas and because they were playing in Unrivaled during the off season and they were making money there, they were able to get into the WNBA season.
Put this in, 809, 18. This protest wasn't just symbolic. It was a full-blown escalation in the ongoing war between the players and the league. What made it even more jarring was the internal tension that followed. Word quickly spread that none of the members of Team Caitlin Clark had shown up to the pre-game meeting where the protest was planned.
If the WNBA decides to lengthen the season and take away other opportunities for these players, but they lengthen the season without paying them more, there could be players who decide that they would rather go play in Europe.
Whether that was intentional or just poor communication, it raised eyebrows and sparked quiet conversations. Is everyone really on the same page here? If the league's biggest star is missing from the movement's organizing table, that's not a small detail. That's a crack in the foundation. Still, when the players stepped onto the court with their shirts on, the fans had no doubt whose side they were on. Cheers erupted from the crowd, not for the dunks or the passes, but for the protest itself. The audience wasn't just watching basketball, they were witnessing a labor revolt in real time.
Holy hellfire, Kathy Engelbert. Hell, damn you for this, WNBA PA, damn you. Because I actually have to praise the commissioner.
And honestly, the players have every right to raise hell. Because behind the scenes, the WNBA is raking in more money than ever, while the athletes driving that success are stuck with outdated paychecks. Let's start with the numbers. In the past year alone, the average value of a WNBA franchise has jumped by an insane 180%.
That are officially bitching about everything. Oh my God, now we may have to play 50 games. We're already playing 44. Look, there needs to be some adjustments and some spreading out of the league and this and that.
Not the average. That's the cap. Meanwhile, on the NBA side, the minimum salary, teams that were once valued at under $100 million are now worth nearly 3 times that. And the Golden State Valkyries, they were purchased just last year for $50 million. Today, their valuation sits at over $500 million. That's not an exaggeration or media fluff. That's cold, hard business math.
I do think they ought to be some kind of a percentage bonus.
And it doesn't stop there. 3 new franchises, Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia, are set to join the league between 2028 and 2030. Each of those new teams has already shelled out $250 million just in expansion fees. That means nearly $1 billion in fresh cash is entering the league before a single one of those teams even plays their first game. The WNBA is printing money, gaining sponsors, packing arenas, and locking in new TV deals. On paper, it's a booming business. But for the players, it's the same paycheck it's always been. Despite all this growth, the league's maximum salary for players still sits at $249,000. That's not the average. That's the cap. Meanwhile, on the NBA side, the minimum salary is $1.27 million. So, while WNBA players are out there breaking attendance records and carrying this historic season on their backs, they're getting paid less than NBA rookies who barely touch the court. That's not just unfair, it's insulting.
Paid more. We don't know how much they are asking for, and that is something that could be a sticking point, but I am with them in a sense that I do think that there should be raises. I do think that they should be paid more.
This is why the players are demanding a scalable revenue sharing model, one that increases their cut as the league grows. They don't want to lock into another fixed number that ignores future success. But the league isn't budging. They've reportedly offered proposals with rigid payout structures that would essentially freeze player compensation even as profits continue to climb. In other words, the people generating the value are being told to settle for less. Again.
Players do need to get compensated more. They do need to be paid more. And with the trajectory of the WNBA.
During a negotiation meeting earlier this year, WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert looked across the table at the union representatives, which includes some of the biggest names in the league, and said bluntly, "You don't understand business." The statement didn't leak from a secondhand source or a shady report. It came directly from Nneka Ogwumike, the Players Association president, who repeated it during an interview in Brooklyn just ahead of the Seattle Storm's 79-70 win over the New York Liberty.
Could the WNBA be headed to a lockout?
Nneka called Engelbert's remarks a slap in the face, and for good reason. This isn't a league full of rookies just learning the ropes. These are seasoned professionals who have helped grow the WNBA into the most talked about women's sports property on the planet. And they're being told they don't know how money works by someone representing a league that's raking in $250 million expansion checks from cities like Detroit, Philadelphia, and Cleveland, all while keeping player salaries stuck under $250,000 a year.
Collier had to say about the protest after the game.
You know, the players are what is building this brand and this league. We feel like we are owed a piece of that pie that we helped to create.
Well, there appeared to be a little bit of division after the game as to who came up with the protest.
The t-shirt.
The comment drew backlash from across the player spectrum, but outside of that circle, something strange happened. Engelbert began receiving support, and not the kind that's whispered in private. From business commentators to league loyalists, critics began to praise her for standing her ground, applauding her for refusing to cave to what they called unrealistic player demands. In their eyes, Engelbert wasn't dismissing the players. She was protecting the league's long-term financial health.
And ticket sales have grown 26%. The average attendance for a game grew to 11,000 this year, which is up from 5,600 in 2022.
But let's be clear, that financial health comes with a price, and it's not being paid by owners or sponsors. It's the players absorbing the cost. Again. When the league sent back its counter-proposal in response to the union's early 2024 demands, players were stunned. Brianna Stewart, a WNBPA vice president and co-owner of Unrivaled, called the response pretty polar opposite to what the players had outlined. And Stewart's not new to this game. She's played in Russia, Turkey, and the WNBA. She knows the value of labor and the limits of patience. The message from the league was received loud and clear. This is a business, and you are not in charge.
Been these expansion fees. Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia are all set to join the WNBA between 2028 and 2030.
But maybe the players don't need to be in charge to walk away. The truth is, the WNBA is rapidly losing leverage, and the players know it. Because if things don't change soon, many of them won't be sticking around to argue.
Franchise is valued at $269 million, which is up 180% year over year. And the Golden State Valkyries that were bought for $50 million are now worth over $500 million.
Let's talk numbers again. A WNBA veteran like Caitlin Clark, with her fan base, media coverage, and marketability, could earn significantly more by signing a contract overseas. European and Chinese women's basketball leagues routinely offer top American players $500,000 to $1 million per season, plus housing, travel, and luxury accommodations, which are practically unheard of in the WNBA's current pay scale. Add endorsements to that package, and you're talking about the kind of money WNBA players can't even negotiate toward right now.
So what are the players demanding in the CBA negotiations? First, a major increase in revenue sharing. WNBA players currently receive 9.3% of the revenue, whereas in the NBA, players share 50% of basketball revenue.
And on the other hand, Caitlin Clark is not just a rookie. She's not just a star. She is, by every measurable metric, the gravitational center of the WNBA right now. While most WNBA players manage to bring in between 400,000 to 600,000 viewers per nationally broadcast game, Clark's presence changes the equation entirely. Her games don't land in the mid-six figures. They cross the 2 million mark. In May, a game featuring Clark drew 2.1 million viewers, making it one of the most watched WNBA broadcasts in over 2 decades. And this isn't some fluke.
The minimum is around $66,000, with the maximum being around $249,000, whereas in the NBA, the league minimum is $1.27.
Owners are not blind to this. They've seen the numbers, they've read the reports, they know the fans showing up in droves aren't coming just for basketball. They're coming for Caitlin Clark. Every jersey sale, every sold-out arena, every viral highlight is tied directly to her presence on the court. And while that might seem like a victory for the league, it's also its biggest vulnerability. Because if your entire business model hinges on one player, then you're not building a sustainable future. You're rolling dice on borrowed time.
Vision after the game as to who came up with the protest.
The t-shirt, just United Front was determined this morning that we had a meeting for,
And it's not just about the money. The league's own handling of Clark's integration into the WNBA ecosystem has been messy at best, antagonistic at worst. From being excluded from protest planning at the All-Star Game to being repeatedly downplayed in media narratives, the message sent internally hasn't always matched the public PR spin. And fans are picking up on it. Every shove on the court that doesn't get called, every viral moment of her getting disrespected, adds fuel to a narrative that the WNBA is failing to protect its biggest asset. One sports commentator didn't sugarcoat it. On a recent podcast, he flat out warned, "If you run Clark out, you're done." And that wasn't hyperbole. It was a direct response to a growing concern that the league might, through mismanagement and ego, destroy its most bankable figure. Not by banning her, not by sidelining her, but by making the environment so hostile or underwhelming that leaving becomes the logical move. The math is simple. If no agreement is reached by Halloween, the WNBA enters lockout territory. And this isn't just an off-season training delay or some canceled scrimmages. This would mean a complete shutdown of league operations. No games, no salaries, no growth, and no visibility.